All right. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all here at PyLadies Con 2024. I'm excited that I get to spend some time with you all and especially on this panel discussion. My name is Abigail, Mesrenyame Dogbe. I'm an open source programs manager and researcher. And today on this panel discussion, we have some amazing PyLadies here, and we would be talking generally about their how they got started in contributing to open source. And I hope that you find this session insightful. I hope that it inspires you to start contributing to open source. So we'll start by listening to our speakers and getting them to introduce themselves. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got introduced to open source? I think we can start with Jessica.
Of course. So good to be here. Thank you so much. So my name is Jessica Tegner. I got started in open source when I was very young through modding video games, and then that's kind of spiraled completely out of control into having it be my full-time job and my passion. And now I do open source as an open source maintainer. I maintain a library called PyPanda that you can look up if you are so inclined. And other than that, I also go around to different conferences around the world and kind of speak at different topics and everything from DIY to open source leadership to more technical topics and project and organization governance.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Hi, Melissa.
Hello. My name is Melissa. I'm based in Brazil, and I got started with the open source a long time ago as a user first, and actually as a free software activist. Locally, I got very involved with the free software movement around the university, where I was studying maths. And then I became a professor at the university, and through trying to teach people about open source and free software in education, and trying to push for open source tools in education and things like that. So eventually I realized research and administration was not what I really wanted to do. I loved teaching, but I wasn't too happy at the university. And then I transitioned when I was 38 to being a full-time open source programmer and working actually initially as a technical writer, but now also as a maintainer of a few open source libraries, mostly focusing on the PyData and scientific Python space.
Great. Yeah.
Hi everyone. So my name is Ya, and I'm originally from Ghana, but I'm currently based in Canada. So I would say that I probably had gotten exposed to open source like at a very young age, but I wasn't aware of the fact that that was open source. Okay, so I think um, during my undergraduate studies, I got the opportunity to volunteer with PyLadies Ghana. I got introduced to the broader Python Ghana community, and it was during a conference, the PyCon Africa conference, and then I decided to start amplifying what was happening, at that event. And I got introduced to Abigail, and that's how come I joined the PyLadies Ghana community. And I think it was Abigail that kept hammering on, open source. What we're doing is open source. And I mean, I was like, what is it? Like, I really don't get what the topic is about. But yeah, I think I was also using open source libraries, even as an undergraduate student. But I think it just dawned on me later in my later years. And then that's how come I knew that, oh, so I was already contributing to open source and I didn't even realize. So I would say that, yeah, I think I started earlier, but I only realized like just years ago. So that's basically my background. And yeah, and I'm excited to be contributing to it. I currently work in an amazing team where we are driving open data, and I am also contributing as you know as the PyLadies community manager for the Ghana the Ghana group, and it's been an amazing like opportunity working with so many people in that open source like, community. So that's been my journey so far, and yeah, looking forward to learning more.
Exciting. I think like you all have very interesting journeys, and I'm glad that you get to share it on a platform like this, and also showing the power of open source and even the power of community from all the things that you shared, right? Like we see open source in governance, in data science, web development, and I mean, different fields. And so I think it's really exciting that we have something called open source that is like extremely powerful and can help us to do a lot of things. And hopefully, we are going to delve deeper and break things down just so that also folks who are new in this space will get to understand and also feel inspired by your stories. So would like to continue by sharing what open source means to you. Like what does it mean to you as a person or as an individual? Melissa, can you start?
Yes, I think, from the beginning, the philosophy of open source and free software was very appealing to me because I was working at the university. And as you may imagine, in Brazil, we have public universities, meaning that people go to the university for free. And so, starting when you're studying maths or you're studying engineering or physics, if people push you towards using, for example, MATLAB, which is a proprietary and very expensive program that you use for sciences and research in general, it doesn't make sense. You're in a free university. You're trying to get universal access to information, data, and research, and you have to pay for the software. So at the time, it really didn't make sense. And then when I learned about Python and what NumPy and SciPy were getting developed, this was just groundbreaking, and it meant that we could transition into a free software workflow. And so this was very important for me, particularly both for open education and open science. So I feel like you can't really reproduce results if you're using a proprietary tool, or it makes science less accessible, especially in underdeveloped countries, or outside of the US and Europe and rich countries. We need to have more access to education and science, and I feel like open source allows us to have that.
Interesting. Yeah, Nuamah.
Okay, so basically my what open source actually means it brings a sense of collaboration and innovation. To me, what comes to mind when I think about open source is that is deeply rooted or stemmed from that um level where there's a community building something around like a common value. So that's how come I got introduced to open source. I mean, I didn't after hearing about open source, what I heard most was about how to contribute to code, how to do this, how to basically around coding. And later on I got to find out that okay, so community development is also a part of open source, where different people from different backgrounds come together, and then they try to promote that particular mission or goal. So I personally, my journey has been deeply rooted in community, learning from others, sharing my knowledge, working together to solve like real world problems, how to include people in, and also help them understand what open source is and how they can contribute to it. So that has been my my learning and what it actually means to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for sharing. Jessica.
Yeah, very similar to Yad's story. It's all about building on top of giants. That's really when I got started. It was all about if I wanted to learn something, I could go read a book, sure, but I could also go and read code on GitHub that other people had put out there, and that was all open source and available. So it's all about building on top of the people that came before us,
Mm,
and then later on realizing that there is this great community, and that's something that's really become important to me. Going and actually meeting all these people that you see behind a computer screen, and being with them on an actual at an actual conference or a meetup. um, so it's very much this combination of both free and open information, being able to preserve what people have built and continue working on it, and then also having this great community to just have this mindset of let's not gatekeep information to the lucky few, but have it all open and available for anyone to learn from.
great. Now we've shared what open source means to us, like individuals. Now we want to look at what it means to actually contribute to open source, and if there's even a need at all to contribute to open source. What are your thoughts, Yanyama?
Yes, I agree to the fact that there is a need to contribute to open source no matter where you are in the world. And my thought around this is that I remember being in, I would use this scenario to explain. I remember being in an event some time back, and one of the speakers mentioned that your voice is unique. Okay, you have a different, like you have a unique voice, you have a different perspective to what others have. So be comfortable sharing those perspectives. Be ready to share them, and that is how that is what would be used to drive a certain action. So your perspectives are definitely going to solve somebody's another person on another group's, should I say, issues or problems. And so don't don't hesitate trying to, like, make your voice known. And so that's how come, I that's what I would say. um those are some of the ways you can contribute to open source, by ensuring that you always share your perspectives, what you feel, because you're also representing a certain group that nobody else might be willing to represent, or nobody else might know of. So yeah, that's my perspective around this.
Right. Jessica, what does it mean to contribute to open source? And is there even a need at all? Why is there a need to contribute to this space? Yeah.
Because I would say it's definitely because we're only as strong as many members are around. So if nobody wants to contribute, then we kind of fall behind new technologies and so on. That's on the practical level. The more charismatic level is you build. If you of course if you want to, you can build this community or be a part of something greater on a need as you want basis. So if you don't have full time to dedicate to open source, that's also completely understandable. But you can be a part of it and kind of like on your terms, and then contributing itself. It's also very important to keep in mind that you don't have to be some super expert level programmer that has a PhD in computer science to be able to contribute. You can contribute from all walks of life. You can contribute many things, not just code. You can set up an event like this. You can set up a meetup. You can contribute non-code like documentation. There's so many different ways to contribute to open source. That's not just source code.
Right. That's great to know. Melissa.
Yeah, just confirming everything both of you have said. I would also add, again, I think this is really nice when we have different perspectives, and every experience level, every background brings something to the conversation. So, for example, in many of the open source projects that I work in, We always ask newcomers to read our developer documentation, make sure that they flag everything that is unclear, incorrect, or incomplete, or anything that they feel could be improved. Because if you are inside the project for a long time, you don't see those things anymore. You just assume what's happening behind the scenes. And so that information is lost. So whenever someone new comes, they have a new perspective, they have a new look into those docs, and they go, this is not right. And so this example is for docs, but you could say that about everything, about your code, about your community, about the governance, about anything. And so every single person that joins the project will bring something to it. So, and why it's important to contribute, I think it's community makes us stronger. And as Jessica said, we're only as strong as our collective efforts. And so I think it's really nice that we have this such a huge influence actually in all of the tech that's being done in the world today. And sometimes we don't realize that, but if you're a volunteer and you're participating in these activities, you can also help guide the direction in which this technology is going. And because we know the technology rules so much of our world, you want to be a part of it. You want to make these decisions and kind of steer things in the right direction. So I think that's really important.
There's so much, there's so much need to contribute to open source, and I'm glad that you all shared some light like on that. Now, Jessica, you did mention a few ways that people can contribute to open source. Can you share what the benefits look like?
In terms of actual contributing, or
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can even share again, what are the ways to contribute to open source, and what are the benefits that anyone can get from contributing to open source? Yeah.
Well, the benefit would definitely be that you get to share your perspective with people that are really eager to hear them, and you get to kind of have this conversation with people that that you're working on the same thing that you're both passionate on. And you might learn something in the process, even from contributing to something you had no idea about in the first place.
Great. Melissa, would you like to share?
Well, for me, I think there's many benefits, and it really depends on what you want to take out of it. Maybe you want to increase your professional experience. Maybe you want to, have the commit history on your GitHub landing page. That's totally valid as well. But I think for me personally, it's meeting people. I've met so many nice, wonderful people through open source and just working with them. And it's a very we like to say, the tech people don't like people very much, or that they're, they like that their technology and code. But I find that this is a very people-focused activity, actually. You have to deal with people all day and talk to them and learn about them and understand what their problem is. And I love that.
Awesome. Are there any other ways that you have found that people can contribute to open source? Melissa, sorry.
Can you repeat the question?
Are there other ways that anyone can contribute to open source outside of coding?
Absolutely. And that has been one of the things that I like to work at the most, is finding ways for people to contribute outside of code. Because I think code is kind of, let's say, obvious, or is the first thing that people think when they think about contributing. There's so much more. So there's documentation, there's obviously translations. You can, as you said before, organize meetups, organize your local community, be a part of a PyLadies group, mentor someone. You can even do design for websites. Every single project needs a website, and they need proper design and the logo, or organizing the basic workflow of the project. So all of those are really good ways of contributing, and even hosting the meeting, the community. I do that for a couple projects as well, just hosting the community meetings. And it's something that no one else wants to do, and that's fine, as long as there's someone to do it. So all of those are ways to contribute.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, would you like to share
Yeah.
what ways people can contribute to open source, and then what the benefits look like. You can definitely also share your personal experiences of what the
Yeah.
benefits have also looked like. Yeah.
Yeah. I there are so many ways to contribute to open source. I'll just talk about what Melissa even said. I mean, yes, although there's like a coding team, a development team behind that, software product, I believe that such a team is even like is broader than we think. We have testers, we have those also trying to build the programs around that, even software products, trying to help communicate it to users, how to utilize this product, how to write down the user guides. That's the product team and all of that. There are so many ways we can contribute to it. I just feel like sometimes we can look at it at the perspective of like in the perspective of like an organization, what they do, what the software development cycle even looks like. But when you bring it out there, there's also the community aspects where we are trying to promote that, whether it being a product or it being a language, a programming language for people to learn and upskill themselves. And to the question on what the benefits are, the benefits are broad. I think it's true that yes, you have to know what kind of benefit you're looking for. Is it trying to upgrade your public speaking skills? You can contribute to open source by trying to learn about different topics, trying to share them with more people, trying to even share a product that okay, this product is actually open and like actually free and open source, so you can utilize it. And also in the capacity of a social media content creator, you can start talking about, open source events happening, open source topics that are happening in different places. I think there are so many benefits. And for personally, I think that I wouldn't say I had a benefit when I started. I don't think I thought about that when I was trying to contribute to open source. I think I just got inspired by seeing people like me, speaking at tech events, and I was like, oh wow, like this is interesting. Let me also, contribute. So I started contributing through like sharing social media, like content around Python topics and all of that. And that's how come I joined the PyLadies community. I joined in the communications department and started thinking about how to engage people, how to make it so appealing to them to learn. So there are diverse ways, and probably your experience will be different from me. Don't shy away from any opportunity that comes out of like, open source. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually very true. I personally remember my journey as well. I don't think that I realized how much I could benefit from contributing to open source until I got to a point where I felt like, okay, I think I found my purpose in tech. Because you go to school, you learn all of these courses, and it's like, okay, where do I even start from? How do I know to niche down like on um, where I really fit in? And that was a story for me. I just really found it interesting and fun, bringing others into something that I had also found that was fun, which is like the Python programming language. And eventually, like I found that this is interesting. I want to do more. And now I'm even in graduate school and I'm doing research in open source. And I really feel fulfilled actually being in this space. So yeah, the benefits are a lot, and I definitely encourage you and recommend that you contribute to open source. So Melissa, we want to learn about how to find projects that we can contribute to, right? What does it look like in the landscape of like open source? What kinds of projects are available for people to contribute to, and how can they find them?
That can be a difficult question because there are all sorts of projects. People are wonderful, really, and they come up with ideas that, I would have never thought of. And so there are all kinds of projects that you want to find. I would say start with things that you are interested in. And if you are already a user of some of these tools, maybe start with them. Because if you have some familiarity with the concepts and the ideas and why these libraries are used, it's going to be much easier for you to figure your way into contributing. So if let's say that you're a big user of pandas for your day-to-day work, maybe that's where you get started because you understand the bugs, you understand the issues, you understand why they do things in a certain way. On the other hand, if you want to play and you want to spend time doing something completely different from your work, try to find something fun. Go look at projects that work with music or with art, or you don't have to do serious stuff all the time. So maybe try to find open source projects that are not that serious and that you can play with and enjoy. I think joy is one of the biggest motivators for learning. So that's where you feel better. So maybe try to find things that you enjoy doing. That would be my tip.
Yeah. Yeah, would you like to share?
Yes, definitely. I think I would liken this to another scenario I I was involved in. So a friend recently reached out to ask what to do in terms of finding open source projects. I think first of all, you can Google. Google is available and it's free, and you can always search for open source, like projects that you can contribute to, and you can also look at projects that might be related to the skills you have. So if it's React, you can look for projects around that programming language. And I know that there will also be people who might not know where to start from. Probably they don't have any, programming skills. You can just look at maybe the local community you belong to. Start by probably attending any of that open source events, just to listen to some of be involved in the knowledge sharing moments to learn about new things, and maybe in there you'd find an interest that you can drive on. So I this is some of the yeah this is some of the advice I would give to anyone interested in open source.
Right. Right. Great. Thanks for sharing. Jessica.
Yeah, so it's all amazing advice. I won't repeat it too much. It's really just if you have something you want to another some other ways is like if you have something you want to automate as an example on your computer, chances are someone has probably done it already. You can probably find that lying around the interwebs. Other than that, if you have other interests, it can really be anything from space and exploration to weather to music to art. You, again, chances are there's probably several communities, like communities for days that solve problems or have projects available in and around those interests that you can join, so you can kind of combine your other interests together with the open source and contributing in community. And then, hey, you get a community that's both interested in open source and the other thing you're also really interested in.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Most definitely, these are important to take note of. And if you're new here to our community, PyLadies is actually a great place to start. This community has like a whole lot of people who are friendly and are very much interested and curious in helping other people. And so if you are interested and don't know where to start from, I would say that PyLadies is a great place to start from. Just ask. Join us on Slack and say hello and ask. Everybody there will be willing to help. I'm sure you definitely find one or two projects or even guidelines on how to help within PyLadies Global itself. So yeah. So we want to talk about some of the considerations people should take before selecting a project to contribute to. What does it look like? What has You can definitely also share what has worked for you and what hasn't worked in terms of selecting a project to contribute to. Yeah, would you like to start?
Yes. So I think that in my experience, I was interested in security, and so I started looking for projects or open source projects around security, and I was looking at how to, contribute to these areas. And yeah, I used Google. I also asked people in within that space where to start from, and that's a good, like, that's one of the few steps you can also, imitate to start searching for projects. I know that I've also been in open source sessions where you are guided to look for good first issues, and that's where to, like, I mean, those issues are moderately, like, they can easily be solved by a beginner or any other person with different skill sets. So I think, yeah, just, and another way is to also contribute to documentation, right? It's a great place to start. Documentation is very important in every organization and every project. So you can also look at that. So these are some of the areas that, yeah, I would suggest to everyone.
All right. Awesome. Um, Jessica, would you like to share what should anyone take into consideration before selecting a project to contribute to?
Yeah, so something that I really come across a lot when I talk to people about this exact thing is you always have the expectation that there's a lot of there might be a lot of open, like very visible signs that things are like in development, like a lot of open PRs, a lot of open issues, but that might not always be the case. um, so don't my kind of message is like, don't shy away from a project just because it looks um, looks abandoned. That might just be because there's a few maintainers, or a single maintainer, and the project works and nobody has asked for more features, so it's kind of in a maintain mode. But that doesn't mean you can't come in with your ideas, because everyone, even the projects that's been around for a long time, they always love these new perspectives, and that might spark discussion on like something you hadn't expected from a simple like request, or a simple, hey, can I open a PR to do this thing. um, so yeah, just find, honestly, to find a project that you want to contribute to is a very, very hard task. um, but yeah, just like just find a project and then just like jump in, because nobody's going to kind of push you into it unless they know you're there. So even just opening an issue and saying, hey, I want to contribute, um, these are like something I'm good at, these are some stuff I'm not good at, is there anything I can do? Or um, if that's a little too like out there, just go and look through the open issues if there are any, and see if there's something that's like, oh, I can do that pretty easily. Then feel free to open a like get started, and people will get to know you that way.
Right. I think these are really great insights. Thanks for sharing. Melissa, would you like to share?
Yeah, so again, I agree with everything that was said. A couple of things extra is that a few projects do have community meetings or new contributor meetings that you can join and then ask your questions over a Zoom call. Sometimes it's easier than through text. It depends on what you prefer. Mm, A lot of projects also have like an alternative communication medium like Slack or Discord that you can join and ask questions instead of putting your question publicly on GitHub. That can be a barrier for some people for multiple reasons. And so that is one way that you can ask your question before you start contributing. But I also would like to say that you need to kind of set your expectations around depending on the project that you want to contribute. So I'm going to speak about the projects that I'm familiar with. NumPy can be a complicated project because it may take a long time for your pull request to get reviewed. So as long as you have that, expectation that you know that this is going to take a long time, then that's fine. But it's important to keep that in mind before you start contributing, so you're not frustrated, and the maintainers are also not frustrated.
Great. Thanks for sharing. So, if you're listening to us, if you're watching us, we are coming to the end of this session. And so, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free. Our speakers are more than willing to answer your questions. So, what would you have loved to do better in your journey of contributing to open source? I think this is pretty much a moment of reflection. You have done this before, you have been there before. What does it look like, and what do you think you would have loved to do better when you started? And yeah, definitely in your journey of contributing to open source. Jessica, would you like to go?
Yes, of course. Really just knowing that there's a community like earlier, that's probably the thing I wish I could have done differently. Just knowing that there's this great group of people that's dying to meet you. Just have known that earlier. Yeah.
Right. Melissa.
I think I would have liked to not be so shy in the beginning. I think I held myself back a lot because I was afraid of what people would think of me and my code, and they would judge me. And now I see that I didn't need to be that scared. So I think I would have liked to be more bold, I guess, in the beginning.
Sure. We'll take a response from Ya, and then we'll answer one question from the audience, and we'll end our session. So Ya, what does it look like? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I will draw a bit from what others have said, but yeah, it's also trying to be bold to share more, documenting my journey because I was inspired by other people's journey, right? And it's basically because they decided to share more to inspire people who they might not even know they were inspiring. So I think that trying to document my journey to in open source and sharing it out there, finding the time to do more would be something I would love to, improve. And yeah, I think documentation is key, personally or corporately. Yeah, we've all found it's important. So yeah, that's my
Right.
take.
Right. Right. Thanks for sharing. So we have a question from Rafaela. I hope I pronounced your name well. And anyone can take this, anyone on the panel can take this question. So the question is, how do you cope with imposter syndrome when you're contributing or when you contribute to open source? All right, Jessica, I see your hand up.
Yeah, sure. Well, the main way I found to cope with it, because I've surely have my fair share, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, is just to remember that everyone kind of has imposter syndrome, and then all of a sudden it doesn't seem so scary for me, at least when I'm standing on stage presenting and looking out over the room and remembering there would probably be just as scared, if not more, and nervous, if not more, if they were in my place now. And then all of a sudden, it just gets like to go away. The same with everyone starts a place when they start to contribute. So just that's the main thing that's helped me, is just remembering that, hey, everyone has imposter syndrome, and it's an okay thing to both talk about, and it's an okay feeling to have. That means you really care about what you're doing and you want to do it right.
Right. All right. Thanks for sharing. I would like to say a big thank you to you all for making time, for sharing your journeys with us, and for inspiring us in this session. Thank you all so much. And I hope that our audience also picked a lot from this session. So there's a mentored sprint that is going to be happening after this panel. I hope that right after, from here, you're going to take the opportunity to join our mentored sprint. So that you can meet other people and also get started with contributing to open source. You have other folks as well who are happy to mentor you on this journey. So I hope that this session has inspired you enough, and we'll see you on the mentored sprint. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.